What's up, everybody? Oh, man. Long day. Ted. Favorite technical analysis podcast, Bodies and Wicks. I am your host, Mr. Ted. How are you all today? I need to wake up, is what I need to do. So we're gonna be doing a quick, but we're gonna be doing an analysis on an intermarket analysis, and the intermarket analysis is going to be on the NASDAQ and the influence on crypto, or if it's crypto that has influence on NASDAQ. Maybe it's a little bit of both. We're going to come at it with a smart money perspective. Basically, it's anything you're usually taught in retail, it's about the exact opposite. It's about the people who have the money, right, and can push the markets around, right? And there's a specific algorithm that they can use. What they do is they use that algorithm to look for liquidity in the market, so that way they can, hit people's buy stops and sell limits and stuff like that. And that way they can flood the market with liquidity and then make it seem like it's going to go in your favor, and then it'll go the opposite way against you. That way it takes your money, basically. So if you've been like me, and especially in the past been like, oh, look at this, it's hit this line 3 times, that's a definite support area, and once it tests there again, I'm going to go ahead and just trade, put a buy on that support area. And what happens when you do that? It looks like it's going to buy, then all of a sudden, boom, it goes against you, and you're like, what just happened? I thought that was support. Well, it's because of smart money. Smart money is the one that controls the algorithm. They're the one that control the charts, and they're going to be the ones that are going to be selling against you. They're going to be selling into your buys. They're going to be basically, buying their sells, but it's going to be more heavily sold than bought. So, and there's going to be so many people buying, especially on the way down, that it's just going to keep going until it reaches an agreement point and it consolidates again and all that good stuff. So that's pretty much what smart money is. Price basically looks for two things, right? It looks for liquidity and it looks for balance. And those are the two things that it looks for. Other than that, there's a lot of other things that we could get into the nitty gritty of that it does, especially talking about PD arrays. Premium discount arrays is what it means. But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to do an intermarket analysis thing tonight. Basically NASDAQ versus crypto, and what if anything is causing, kind of this slowdown. But if you have watched my channel, you think you're learning something, what I like you to do, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit the alert bell. That way it lets you know anytime I, release a video. I'll be going live generally every Wednesday from now on until about right around noonish, or I want to say I'm going to try to get on a schedule. I'm relaunching my Patreon, and on Thursdays I'm going to do a private lesson for everybody. It's going to take about an hour, probably around 1 o'clock noon, I'm not for sure, maybe before that, maybe about around 11. I have a new job that I start at the beginning of the year. It's going to be second shifts. It's going to be amazing for me because I'm going to be available during the trading hours. Basically, I'm going to have to sleep through some of it. It's in manufacturing. Definitely not something I saw myself ever doing, considering I have a college degree, and most of my work has been analytical work. I've been an analyst for I don't know how long, and instead I switched completely, just industries. But who knows? Maybe one day I may become an analyst for this group, or I may, convince them to open up a financial division and start trading. I don't know. I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing because I like what I'm doing, and this honestly, I'm excited for my new chapter in life, and I'm excited to continue doing this. So let's jump into this right now. Okay, so we're gonna start with NASDAQ here. And here I have marked at the beginning of the year, and I have the first high of Bitcoin, basically. And so ever since then, it made a little dip down, right, back in May, right, just like Bitcoin did, but then it shot up after that. And we're pretty much we're gonna kind of show hand in hand why NASDAQ and crypto are basically almost one and the same. And that's because a lot of the companies that anything I have to do with crypto are in NASDAQ. But we're going to go through each of these companies and kind of explain what's going on. I have a lot of different tabs to get through to try to talk to you about different a lot of different things going on that we're going to try to get through in just a few, a short time. As for current, what's going on with NASDAQ is it made this short high, came down, made a short-term low, pulled up, made this high. Now we're on a pullback. Now we've been on pretty much the same kind of pullback in the same amount of time, in crypto that we have with NASDAQ here. And the thing is, now once we start using smart money logic, right? Here we have a weekly fair value gap, right? So this thing has pulled into the weekly fair value gap, filled it, bounced back out, came back down into it. And now what I personally would expect, it to make a run up as if it was going to go higher, but then get rejected by the order block and then come back down into this area. That's just my personal expectations of this. Because we have been running up so much in the NASDAQ, in crypto, we need some time to rest. The market needs some time to rest. It can't just keep going up and up and up and up without it resting at some point. And sometimes it takes time to rest. I mean, we saw this past, summer, how long it took Bitcoin to finally get up and out. May it dropped really bad and it didn't start pulling back up until July. So we had all of May it fell, June, and then July finally starts making its way back up. So we had basically a quarter, and that's what I'm kind of expecting through here. Also, traditionally, in any kind of equities, your time to be slow is this time of year, is this December through March period, basically, or December through February. It doesn't really start picking up again until that time. And it maybe just has something to do with the holidays. People don't like to trade. I don't know. I was looking at open interest on futures and some of the things that we're going to be going over. And a lot of them are just, if there's nobody placing there's no open interest, which means, that somebody has placed, a trade on any of the options, the futures options from January through March on some of them. Some of them did have some February ones. Some of them did have some December ones, and but the ones that I do have pulled up are the ones to where the contracts are the highest, or where the open interest is the highest, I should say. So, me personally, looking at this from a smart money perspective, we do have, like I said, the weekly fair value gap that it's dipped into. I would expect it to hit the bearish order block, and then pull back even further. And the reason I think it would pull back even further is, like I said, the market needs to rest too. A lot of people would probably think it's going to break out. And if you're not watching the open interest on the futures right now, I'm on the CFDs, not the actual futures of NASDAQ. But if you were to look at the futures of NASDAQ, you would probably find that the open interest, especially, it's probably not going to pick up until, February, March, right around where I have it. Basically, I have the I have the, I didn't even mean to do this, but I have the lowest right around March 1st or 2nd, right? So, and then after that, I have it picking back up again. So, so it's filled this weekly fair value gap, and then after that, we'll see. Once it comes up, I personally believe it'll hit this bearish order block. I believe this bearish order block is a 4-hour or a 1 hour. I am not 100% sure. I believe it's a 4-hour. I said we'd look at daily, but I do want to take a look and see where I drew this bearish order block at. Because if you don't remember what order blocks do, order blocks are where it's the last time a price is going up, right? It looks like I did it on the hour. Especially if it's bearish, it will be the last candle that you have up before going back down, and that candle closing below that area. And like I said, bear with me here. My computer's going to be a little slow because I have so many charts pulled up. But once I get done with the chart, I'm going to close it. That way we can try to move faster, and get this going. But this is what I would expect out of NASDAQ. As you can see, we have a lot of equal highs here. There is a small fair value gap there in the 4 hour, and also probably a bigger one in the 1 hour, to where price has reached up into, been rejected multiple times. As you can see, this time it actually reaches up into it, but what happens after it reaches up into it? Boom, it gets rejected even harder. Now we're back down here, and this one's actually moving. So this one's tradable 24/7. Just depends on what kind of platform that you have and what you can use. If you have CFDs that are tradable for NASDAQ, then yeah, you can trade this at any time. You know, NASDAQ's not just an New York session thing. That's for, if you want to go QQQ, that's for the ETF and everything. But if you want to do a CFD, contract for, I forget what it's called, then you can trade the CFDs. And that's what this is here. So this isn't the exact price. This is the CFD price. It's really close. There's really not much of a whole lot of a difference. As you can see, it looks like it's pulled down, gotten down to the bottom here. Looks like this is where the bullish order block is. It's at the very bottom of this candle here, but I would expect it to at least at some point fill up the whole weekly fair value gap before moving on. So this may pull up a little bit and then see where all the green is hanging down. That's where I would expect it to pull up to, and then possibly move back down the other way. Why? Because those would be, and once I get into another lesson, when I teach about breakers, these are where the breakers lie. This is where you'd have a high, low, higher high situation. So that creates a breaker in itself, and that's part of the algorithm. The algorithm knows these things, and once it touches those or gets up into them, there's only so much it can do before it starts getting rejected and pushed back the other way. So I would expect another either sideways day or at least a backwards day for NASDAQ. Maybe not in the beginning of the week. It may actually try to reach, the first couple days, it may try to reach higher, but by Tuesday, I think it might get, Tuesday or Wednesday, it might get its highest and then start falling backwards for the rest of the week. That's just my personal opinion, because I think that's what we're going to be seeing. Or, but the thing is that, we have these equal highs here. Even though it did break through them here, it was very short-lived, came back down. Once we get back up to this price, I have a feeling that's when we're going to finally run the price. But until then, we have a lot of fair value gaps that we got to get through. And again, those things are not fun to try to fight through. Something falls fast. The only way to usually get through it is if it speeds up through it. Here you go. You have a 1 hour fair value gap here that we have to get through. Another one here, another one here. So quite a bit going on in the NASDAQ hourly chart. And we'll just have to see tomorrow what happens. We could come up and get up above here tomorrow and possibly get to a fair value gap and then get rejected after that. Now, within NASDAQ, we do have a lot of different companies that are comprised of or help or are part of the cryptocurrency economy. So one of those, the main one that I picked out, was Coinbase. Coinbase is where you trade crypto. If you haven't heard of Coinbase, then I think you've been under a rock, but that's just me. But look, the funny thing is that the day that Coinbase was actually listed on the New York Stock Exchange was the day that Bitcoin got its highest price. And I think that was the contributing factor for Bitcoin actually getting that high on that day, was Coinbase being listed on the New York Stock Exchange, because then people were buying into Coinbase and it was pumping up the value of the company, which the company was probably then pumping up their stake in Bitcoin, trying to reach out to people and doing custodian programs, where they were the custody, because I've seen a lot of those, a lot of different IRAs that are cryptocurrency IRAs, but Coinbase is the custodian, meaning that they're the ones that's going to be holding the money. It's just that the IRA is giving the services. That's what I found interesting about Coinbase. Now, ever since then, it did come back up whenever we hit the other most recent high, and almost got back to that point. but it didn't get as high as what it did when it first started. And then again, you can see we had the slide off since then as well. It looks like there's 3 equal lows here, or fairly equal lows. Coinbase could easily get below these guys. After that point, NASDAQ is also doing its sideways thing, and it gets to its low point, and then at that point, Coinbase could be going sideways, pulls down, NASDAQ pulls down, they both get below these points, and then it could be, mid-February or, early February, something like that, boom, and they finally start making their way back up. By the time March hits, it looks like we're finally back in the swing of things again. Next one I have is MicroStrategy. If don't know what MicroStrategy is, this is the one that they've got most of their treasuries in Bitcoin, so we can kind of see what's been happening with them. They took off whenever Tesla announced that they were going to be investing a lot of their money in Bitcoin. I guess a lot of people thought that was also a good thing for MicroStrategy, since they had also been doing the same thing. Boom, they took off at that point. Whenever Bitcoin hit its highest high, they had another peak, but it wasn't as high as the Tesla peak. So, but ever since then, it has been slightly growing. It has been on its pullback ever since that November area, that we've seen throughout most of crypto as well. Next one I have pulled up, of course, be Tesla. What's interesting about Tesla is that I always have the purple line here as the beginning of the year. Right, the yellow line is where we see the high in Bitcoin from that year. So we can basically attribute that to Coinbase. I was trying to see if there was a specific company that was contributing to it, and I'm pretty sure it's Coinbase. Didn't really have a lot going on. It did make quite a pullback up until, well, I think it was it was February. It made that announcement. February, I think it was right around here, I want to say. And then after it made that announcement, that's when it started falling. Oh no, it's probably like right around here, something like that, maybe. But it was kind of sideways for most of the year if you think about it, up until recently, up until about October, whenever we all saw that good October, and then it hits its high in November, and again that same spot in November, and then we see the pullback just like we have in crypto. These are just companies that have their treasuries basically in Bitcoin, right? So now we're going to get into the companies that help produce crypto, the graphics card companies, AMD, right? I am an AMD graphics card person. I'm just now getting into the mining thing. But if we look at AMD here, AMD is one of the graphics cards that doesn't just produce Bitcoin, it's more Ethereum, right? And all the other proof of stake coins. If you're thinking about all the Ethereum coins, and you can kind of see, remember how Ethereum kind of had a slow year out in the beginning, and now Ethereum is still growing. It's kind of moving like right along with Ethereum. And if we did a compare with Ethereum, I would actually like to see what that looks like. I don't think it's wanting to. Okay, so we have to move it around a little bit. Look. Yeah, see, you got a spike here. Looks like Ethereum had a spike here. Pretty much right on top of each other, Ethereum and AMD. And it looks like Ethereum is maybe just a little bit ahead of it, but almost right. I mean, it's almost right on top of it, but it looks like it could be a little bit ahead of it. I don't know. No. It pulls back up. That's a really high pull up, though. Once you get back up into here, then it looks like Ethereum is starting to get ahead of AMD. And it may be because we're switching to proof of stake, right? Or instead of proof of work, as to why Ethereum is kind of almost decoupling from AMD. But then again, there's so many other coins out there that are used by AMD that mine crypto. And it actually, it almost does the exact opposite, like a divergence. It diverged here, but then kind of moved along with it there. Let's check out Nvidia. Now, I haven't used Nvidia. I know it has been one of the ones that people have been talking about for a couple of years. I know they've come out with a lot of different graphics cards, a lot of powerful graphics cards that have been producing some crypto. So beginning of the year, again, sideways motion throughout most of the year, it seems like, but still at a really high price, so was AMD. And then again, month of October, once we get here, has a good run up, and then boom, once we get to that November, it's actually late November before it starts to fall off. And I think this has to do with the metaverse tokens. I'm not for sure. I do know that with my AMD, the algorithms with Zhash and Kapow and things like that, they mine Zcoin and Ravencoin and Ethereum. If I wanted to go my CPU route, I could, mine Monero, things like that. I'm not for sure if the metaverse tokens are produced by Nvidia. It would seem that would make the most sense because, or I don't know if they're proof of stake. I haven't really looked at a lot of metaverse coins, to be honest. But if that is the case, that would make sense because it seemed like the metaverse coins were actually going up for quite some time whenever the major coins were going down. But it seems like now everything is kind of falling back together. That being said, I just put a fib on this because I think if we are going to see a fallback, I would anticipate Nvidia, maybe to fall back because you can see where it has equal highs, right? Where it had these equal highs, and then boom, it finally breaks those equal highs. And then once it breaks those equal highs, it falls back into the order block area. So that would be this little red. Yeah, see the last down candle before your up candle comes back down into it, hits it, boom, takes back off again. So that's your bullish order block that it hits. Boom, takes off. Here's your equal highs. What does it do when it comes up, when it gets to those equal highs? It looks like it's going to run it, pulls back, and then boom, finally runs it, but then pulls back again, back down on top of it, and then boom, runs it. Interesting price action here that we have for Nvidia. Perfect textbook, smart money way of doing things. I mean, people probably thought it was going to go short right here, and then boom, they got their socks blown off. They just blew right past them the next day. Weren't even seeing it coming. And so I would think that this would probably fall back even further and probably maybe even get underneath this liquidity point. Could possibly get underneath this liquidity point. Could get down to here. Maybe just underneath this one. Maybe hit this order block here in this area. And then bounce up right at that 70.5 area. I don't think it's going to fall back all the way down to the 88.8. It could, though, because that is where you have the start of basically your whole down movement. So that would be your bullish order block, if you don't remember talking about that. Look at that. That is the start, or that 88.6 is pretty much the start of the old bearish order block movement area before it starts pulling back up. That's why I would expect it whenever it's going to fall back. I'm expecting it to fall back down to these prices down in here, 161 to about 190, somewhere around in there. Call me crazy, but just from reading Smart Money, this is what I think it's going to do. All right, next one is CAN. This is the manufacturer primarily for ASIC manufacturers. For Bitcoin, and also servers for cryptocurrencies. So as you can see, it blew up early before Bitcoin hit its high. So this is when people were buying a lot of CAN, when CAN was buying up a lot of things, people were starting to believe in this company. They were starting to pump money into it. So this was the precursor to Coinbase, basically, because this was the one that was, producing all the Bitcoin. What do I think CAN is going to do? I am not for sure. We do have some equal lows here that it seems to be liking. To where there's liquidity below it. It could punch below it and then come back out. But we'll have to see. But it's also made some equal highs, so I think eventually it will run those highs. And once it does run those highs, it might get up to these equal highs here at the 61.8 that I have. And then it could turn around and go the opposite way. The thing with these is that sometimes you have to flip them over, because it could be going in a bearish direction. So it could be faking you out and making a run up at some point. And once it does do that run up, see where the halfway point is, or maybe even up to the 61.8. and then you might see a sell-off after that. I'm watching these lines here, these prices anyway. I would love to see it, love for it to get back up to 23. That would be quite the amazing feat. So again, watch out for these prices right here. This is where I think it might get up to, and that's where I would be personally looking to sell again. This one, and this one right here. I think once it gets higher than that, we're getting up into fair value gap area territory. It's going to get rejected again. So I think I would just take what I want and then see if it falls back down. But I don't think it's going to get much lower than this, even though the NASDAQ is already low and we're feeling a pullback and even a bigger pullback. I don't see CAN doing that. I don't see CAN following the NASDAQ direction. If anything, it could be preparing for another Bitcoin wave. So it could be just trying to produce as much Bitcoin as possible, releasing it out into releasing that liquidity out into the open until we completely mine it all. But it's going to take people. I mean, even though we've already mined a lot of Bitcoin, you got to think that it does halve, and the halving is coming up, I don't know, in a couple of years. And even then, it gets even harder to mine. So we're still looking at least about 10 years of Bitcoin mining. So keep that in mind, everybody. Well, at least we'll take a look at some of the businesses in NASDAQ, primarily the ones that have the Bitcoin as Treasury, and also the graphics cards designers and what creates cryptocurrency. Next, we'll be looking at the miners themselves, the actual mining companies that are in NASDAQ. And then there'll probably be a third video on key elements that are in graphics card units. And we'll see the price of those through smart money to see if the price graphics card units are going to go up or if we think they're going to be going down, and what kind of conclusion that we can draw from that. If it's going to get more expensive or less expensive. If it gets more expensive, how's that going to affect the stock price? Things like that. So this is the first video out of a 3-video series. So thanks a lot for watching, and always keep your pants on.